The gym is buzzing with energy. People are lifting weights, running on treadmills, and chatting between sets. It's an average afternoon, with the usual mix of gym-goers. Some are here to work hard, others just trying to keep fit. The atmosphere is intense, but there's a sense of focus in the air. In the corner of the gym, a new trainer is adjusting the weights, getting ready for his next client. He's young, excited, and eager to prove himself. His name is Jake, and he's just starting out in the world of personal training. Jake watches people around him, trying to take mental notes on how to handle different clients. He wants to make a good impression, especially today. Just then, the door swings open, and in walks a guy dressed in simple gym clothes. Nothing too flashy. He has a slight grin on his face and walks with confidence, but there's nothing that immediately stands out. He seems like any other beginner. Jake barely notices him at first, but when the man walks toward him, he's ready to start the session. Little does he know, this beginner is someone much more famous than he could ever imagine. Jake looks up and sees the man walking toward him. At first glance, he seems like just another gym goer. Maybe a little older than most of the regulars, but nothing unusual. His clothes are simple, and he doesn't have the bulky physique of someone who spends hours lifting weights. Jake thinks to himself, this guy's probably new to the gym. Maybe looking for a trainer to get started. The man's smile is warm, and there's something about his confidence that stands out. Jake adjusts his posture and walks over to greet him, thinking it'll be an easy first session. "Hey there," Jake says, trying to sound welcoming. "You're here for a session?" The man nods and shakes Jake's hand. "Yeah, I'm just looking to get into shape," he says in a calm voice. His accent's slightly noticeable, but not strong. "Great, we'll start with some basics today," Jake replies. "Nothing too intense. Let's get a sense of where you're at, and then we'll go from there." Jake takes a quick glance at the man, noticing how he stands straight and looks relaxed. His posture is surprisingly good for someone who seems like a beginner. Maybe he's done some light fitness in the past? Jake thinks, but decides not to question it. After all, everyone starts somewhere. "Let's begin with a few stretches to warm up," Jake says, leading the man to the mat. The man nods, following Jake's instructions without hesitation. He does everything perfectly, but Jake is too focused on his own training plan to think twice about it. Jake starts with some basic exercises, believing it's the best way to gauge where his client is at. He explains everything clearly, going over each move step by step. "We'll begin with a few stretches and then some light cardio to get your blood flowing," Jake says, feeling confident. He doesn't want to push too hard on the first day. The man, still smiling, nods and follows along. Jake sets up the treadmill and suggests a light jog. "Start slow, just a brisk pace," Jake instructs, watching closely. The man begins running, and Jake watches as he keeps up effortlessly. It's almost too easy, but Jake figures it's just a lucky start. Maybe the man has some background in fitness after all. He reminds himself not to judge too quickly. "Let's try some squats now," Jake says, moving to the next exercise. "Feet shoulder-width apart, knees bent, and go as low as you can. We're gonna build that strength up slowly." The man follows the instructions, his form perfect. Jake steps closer, offering corrections, but there's little to fix. He's surprised. Most beginners struggle with balance, but not this guy. He's in control, every movement's smooth. Jake decides to push a little more. "Alright, let's move to some push-ups. Don't worry about the number, just focus on your form." The man gets down and starts doing push-ups at a steady pace. Jake watches, thinking, this is impressive for someone who's just starting out. But instead of mentioning it, Jake continues his coaching, focusing on things like hand placement and breathing. "You're doing great," Jake says, impressed. "I can tell you've got some strength." The man just smiles, nodding, but doesn't say much. Jake wonders what kind of background this guy has. He looks like a beginner, but his strength and technique are far beyond someone new to the gym. After a few more sets, Jake can't help but feel a little proud of how well the session is going. But he still has no idea who he's working with. As the session goes on, Jake can't help but notice that the man is handling everything with surprising ease. Arnold moves effortlessly from exercise to exercise, barely breaking a sweat. Jake is a little taken aback. Most beginners would be struggling by now, but not this guy. Jake decides to test him a bit more. Let's try some deadlifts, he suggests, leading Arnold over to the weights. Start light and focus on your form. We'll work our way up from there. Arnold nods, a slight grin on his face. He grabs the barbell, lifting it with ease. Jake watches closely, ready to step in and adjust his posture. But the man's form is perfect from the start. No adjustments needed. Jake is impressed, but he doesn't say anything. He's still thinking of this man as a beginner. You've got some strong legs there, Jake comments as Arnold lifts the barbell effortlessly. Let's add a little more weight. Arnold doesn't hesitate. He adds more weight to the bar and without breaking stride, he pulls it up with ease. Jake is starting to get curious now. Most clients would be asking to drop the weight after a few sets, but Arnold's handling it like it's nothing. Jake feels a little unsure, but he pushes forward. Alright, let's move to the bench press now. Start with a moderate weight and let's see what you can do. Arnold lies down on the bench, grabbing the barbell with both hands. He lifts it up, his movements smooth and controlled. Jake watches as Arnold presses the weight up and down, like it's just another casual workout. Wow, Jake says, eyes wide. You're really strong. Most beginners wouldn't be able to do half of what you're doing. Arnold just smiles, wiping a bit of sweat from his forehead. I've been training for a while, he says, shrugging. But he says it so casually that it still doesn't give anything away. To Jake it sounds like typical beginner modesty. The more Jake watches, the more he's impressed by Arnold's strength. He's clearly doing these exercises with a level of skill and control that's way beyond a beginner's ability. But Jake still doesn't question it. Instead, he pushes Arnold a bit more. How about some pull-ups? Jake asks, thinking it'll be a good challenge. Try to do at least 5. Arnold jumps up to the bar without hesitation. He pulls himself up with ease, counting aloud, 1, 2, 3. By the time he hits 10, Jake is staring in disbelief. Most gym-goers can't even manage 5 clean pull-ups, let alone 10. Jake can't help but be impressed, but he's still trying to play it off as if it's just good luck. You're a natural, he says. But if you want to really get serious, we'll need to step it up. Arnold chuckles softly. I'm ready. As the session continues, Arnold's effortless strength leaves Jake in awe, but there's something else about him that stands out. It's the way he carries himself, with such ease and humor. After every set, Arnold cracks a joke, making Jake laugh between exercises. On the bench press, as Arnold pushes up the weights like it's nothing, he looks over at Jake and says, You know, I think I've been bench pressing for maybe 5 minutes. Jake chuckles, thinking it's just a joke, but Arnold's smile suggests he might be serious. After another set, Jake hands Arnold a towel to wipe his face. You're making this look too easy, he says, shaking his head. What's your secret? Arnold grins and shrugs. Secret? Just a lot of hard work, and maybe a little bit of charm. His tone is playful, and Jake laughs again. Arnold has this way of making everything seem effortless, even though his strength is clearly way beyond what Jake expected. Later, when Jake sets up for some core exercises, he shows Arnold a routine that focuses on crunches and leg raises. Arnold nods but doesn't seem impressed. I've done these before, he says, motioning to the equipment. How about you show me something more challenging? Jake hesitates for a moment. Well, we can try planks next. They'll really work your core. Arnold drops down into position without any hesitation. He holds the plank for a minute, then another minute. Jake's impressed, but Arnold seems like he's barely breaking a sweat. After 2 minutes, Arnold casually says, I could stay here all day, but I think we've got more fun to have. Jake laughs nervously, still unsure what to make of it. All right, you're probably right. Let's keep going. Arnold smirks. Just don't make me sweat too much. I need to look good for my first day. He winks and Jake chuckles, not knowing if Arnold is joking or being serious. It's moments like these, small remarks and funny comments, that keep Jake on his toes. Every time Arnold speaks, Jake wonders just how much he's holding back. He's already seen him do things that seem impossible for a beginner, and yet, Arnold keeps playing it off like he's just another gym newbie. As the workout continues, Jake becomes more and more impressed, though he's still convinced that Arnold is just a strong beginner. At one point, Jake decides to test Arnold's strength with a simple exercise he thinks will be a challenge for him. All right, let's try some overhead presses, Jake says. setting up a barbell with a light weight. Don't worry, we'll start easy, just focus on the movement. Arnold grabs the barbell with ease, lifting it over his head without any difficulty. Jake's eyes widen. This guy's got power, he thinks, but he's still unsure how someone who seems like a beginner can handle this much weight so easily. Arnold continues, and after a few sets, Jake decides to increase the weight slightly. Let's add just a bit more, Jake says. He adds another plate, still thinking it's a challenge for a beginner. But when Arnold lifts the barbell again, it moves like it's nothing. His form is flawless, and he pushes through the set without breaking a sweat. Jake watches in disbelief, realizing that this isn't just beginner's luck. There's something more going on here. At that moment, Jake makes a small mistake. He gives Arnold another set of overhead presses. But this time, he accidentally puts on too much weight, more than Arnold has been lifting all session. Arnold takes a deep breath, lifts the barbell, and presses it up with ease, as if it's a normal weight for him. Jake, who is still focused on adjusting the weights for the next set, doesn't notice the mistake until Arnold finishes the set without even looking fatigued. "All right," Arnold says, casually setting the barbell back down. "That was fun, but let's not go too crazy." Jake's heart skips a beat as he looks at Arnold and realizes something. This guy, he's lifting like a pro. Jake stands there, staring at him for a moment, unable to figure out how he missed it. Arnold catches Jake's look and raises an eyebrow, as if he's waiting for something. Jake stammers, "Wait a minute, how long have you been lifting?" Arnold just smiles, wiping his brow. "A while," he says simply, his grin widening as Jake starts to piece things together. The realization hits Jake like a ton of bricks. His eyes widen as he watches Arnold wipe the sweat from his forehead, still looking as calm as ever. "Wait a minute," Jake says, his voice a little shakier than usual. Are you really a beginner?" Arnold chuckles, the smile never leaving his face. "Well, I've always liked to think of myself as a beginner in life," he says casually. His tone is light, but there's something in the way he says it that feels different. Jake still can't quite piece it together. Arnold wipes his hands on the towel, looks around the gym, and then turns back to Jake. "You might recognize me from some of my other work," he says with a grin, his voice smooth and playful. "I've been known to lift a few things, like, say, a few 1,000 pounds in a movie or two." Jake's eyes grow wider. His brain is racing now, trying to connect the dots. "Wait," Jake stammers. You're Arnold Schwarzenegger?" Arnold nods, still grinning. "Yep, that's me." Jake stares, frozen for a moment, his mind struggling to grasp the situation. He can't believe it. The man who had been pretending to be a beginner, lifting weights like a pro, cracking jokes, was none other than one of the most famous action stars in the world. "Wow," Jake says, shaking his head in disbelief. "I can't believe it. I had no idea." Arnold laughs. "That's okay. I like to keep people guessing. Keeps things interesting." Jake stands there for a moment, completely stunned. He blinks a few times, trying to process the fact that he's been training with Arnold Schwarzenegger and had no idea until now. The gym seems quieter somehow, as if the weight of the moment is settling in. "I can't believe I didn't realize," Jake says, still shaking his head in disbelief. "You were just so normal. You didn't act like I thought you would." Arnold laughs, his voice warm. "Well, that's the point. I like to stay humble. It's more fun this way." Jake lets out a nervous laugh, still trying to wrap his head around the experience. "I'm never going to forget this," he admits. "I trained with the Arnold Schwarzenegger, and I didn't even know it." Arnold claps him on the back. "You did great today, Jake. Don't worry, you'll get a great story to tell." As Arnold heads toward the exit, he gives Jake one last smile. "Thanks for the session. You are a good trainer. I'll be back. Maybe next time, you'll know who I am." Jake watches as Arnold walks out, still in awe. He's left with nothing but the memory of the most unbelievable workout of his life.